What they're doing and bringing the Pope here isn't going to change a thing.
Not his apology to give, but it's the gesture is fine, but it doesn't do us any good. Like, money could be spent elsewhere.
This is Angelica Toy for Rebel News, and today I am out on the streets of Calgary to ask people what their views are on the Pope visiting Canada and what the issues are that precipitated his visit. The Pope is here because Justin Trudeau beckoned him here. Trudeau demanded that the Pope come to Canada and apologize for the cultural genocide that has happened in this nation. The reports of these discoveries sparked a summer of violence towards Christian churches and even dozens of arson hate crimes towards Catholic churches. Let's hit the streets of Calgary to find out how much people know about why the Pope is here and how they feel about the government's and the Vatican's attempts for reconciliation.
I ask for God's forgiveness, and I want to say to you with all my heart, I am very sorry, and I join my brothers, the Canadian bishops, in asking your pardon. Clearly, the content of the faith cannot be transmitted in a way contrary to the faith itself. Jesus taught us to welcome love, serve, and not judge. It is a frightening thing, then, when precisely in the name of the faith, counter-witness is rendered to the gospel.
So, do you know anything about the Pope visits currently in Canada?
Yeah, I've seen it on the news.
Well, yes, I do. I know why the Pope's in Alberta, yes.
I know that he's here, and he's made some apologies. I heard the Pope is sorry.
So Pope Francis is currently in Alberta, granting apologies to the First Nations communities for the residential schools. What are your thoughts on his efforts?
I'm from Belgium, so we are not compromised with this kind of things. But in the great politics, I think that we have to be very tolerant about everything concerning other people or people from the nations from, like here, the First Nations.
Yeah, actually, I feel like I couldn't care less, but like I do have some animosity towards him visiting. And I heard that he like recently apologized for all that's going on, or not, like all that's come up within like all residential schools and everything. But like, I mean, like, who does the Pope even, like, if the Pope is asking for forgiveness from, like, let's say Canada or the Indigenous community within Canada, like, and the Pope's asking forgiveness from them, like, who do we really have to ask forgiveness to? Like, because, like, people who go to confession from the Catholic Church and things like that, you know what I mean? Like, what are, like I just don't understand, like, what are we even confessing to them for when they have sins that outweigh our own?
If that happened to you, right, would you not want something like that to happen for you too? I mean, they're human just like we are. It doesn't matter what color you are. Just because they're native doesn't mean any difference in us. Because they're not. I mean, they were here before we were, and I mean, we should appreciate that. But the thing is, I mean, they have lots of problems, which they should be able to fix. You know, they need a lot of help. But the thing with that, schools and stuff like that, where a lot of those kids got killed, I don't think that was right.
So not a single one of those 215 bodies has actually been found. Not one! You see, this whole story started when an activist anthropology lecturer announced that she'd used ground-penetrating radar to find evidence of a mass grave at this form of school, but the results weren't certain. She said the bodies need to be dug up. The media didn't wait, of course, though, to treat speculation as fact, but now it seems the so-called bodies detected by this activist are just radar findings of tree roots and other soil disturbances.
Recently, after proper examination, it was discovered that the Kamloops Residential School, which was claimed to have 215 bodies of children, had no remains found. With this new information, how do you feel about the response that Canada has taken?
What are my thoughts on it? Well, obviously the government is trying to do everything that they can to figure out, to get some justice, and obviously, again, there's a lot of history there, and understand that the Pope just visited Canada here, and he had some choice words for the whole thing as well. So I'm sure it's in proper hands.
That's
alarming, I guess, because we already are seeing a lot of fake news. However, that doesn't still take away the pain that was inflicted by the church to the people in the indigenous community.
Over 60 churches have been vandalized in response to the residential schools and the mass graves that have been found. Do you think that that outrage is justifiable?
That's a tricky one. I think for the Native people, a lot of them are quite mellow and accept the fact that it's over and things are moving on. There's a lot of them out there, and I can tell you for a fact that they're ticked off. You know, what they're doing and bringing the Pope here isn't going to change a thing. You know, whatever the Pope is saying for his apology here in Alberta, he could have done the same when the natives went there a couple of months ago. I watched it on Rebel News, right? Change is a long ways from over, and bringing the Pope here is not going to fix it. You know, I don't like him personally anyways. My mom's Catholic, and she doesn't have the time of day for him. My mom was raised a Catholic, and you know, I don't think whatever he says about what happened or what he was told happened is going to make any difference with his apology at all.
I have come to your native lands to tell you in person of my sorrow, to implore God's forgiveness, healing, and reconciliation, to express my closeness and to pray with you and for you.
As a First Nations person, do you accept the Pope's apology for the Roman Catholic Church's involvement in the residential schools in Canada?
No, I wouldn't accept it because it's not his apology to give, but it's the gesture is fine, but it doesn't do us any good. Like, money could be spent elsewhere on like the finding the kids that are still out there. That money could be spent to find those people and then give us an apology. Help us find those kids or something. It's instead of paving a road for you to come into the community.
While the mainstream media brings you one side of the story, my colleagues are up in northern Alberta to bring you the other side. To follow more on the coverage of the Pope visiting Canada, go to popereports.com.
The remains of 215 children have been found in a mass grave in Canada.
Many of you know that just over a year ago, the discovery of the remains of 215 children was found at the Kamloops Indian Residential School at the Tk'emlúps First Nation. But what if I were to show you that what I just said wasn't true, and that in fact, a year later, not a single body has been found?
This mass grave is a painful reminder of the genocide.
Canada's leaders aren't condemning the burning of churches. No, they're endorsing the burning of churches.
A juvenile rib bone that surfaced in the same area.
You'd be surprised the number of people who say, you know, I'm a doctor, I'm a paramedic, and this is definitely a human bone, and it's definitely not.
It's like the chief.
It is.
Could be.